For me, the personal highlights of the chapter that I was entrusted with for summarizing and kind of giving my thoughts talks about Easter and how Christians celebrate the belief that Jesus rose from the dead. It explains that many people doubt this belief, but for Christians, it's a matter of faith, which is a big word that I'm going to take out of this chapter, and that faith given by God. So the faith that's given by God. And faith means believing in something when you can't see it. And Easter is a time for Christians to come together and celebrate this belief in Jesus' resurrection, which they see as a powerful and life-changing event. And the writer, Reverend Schneider, here says it's important to show the evidence, so the proof, basically, and reasons for believing in this resurrection, instead of just saying, have faith, or that's just what we believe, that kind of stuff. And that we believe strongly, as does the author, Reverend Schneider, that the truth of Jesus's resurrection and how it shows God's love and his plan for us in his world. And overall, in a summary, I am taking away that it emphasizes the importance of understanding and explaining the resurrection to others who may not believe in a way that makes sense to them, not just those on as Christians on Easter Sunday. And some questions that I'm kind of been thinking about in regards to like summarizing this text is, I'm curious if anyone's ever had an experience about them personally doubting the resurrection of Jesus and how they overcame it. And then also if you've ever struggled to explain the significance of Easter to someone who doesn't share your faith, and how did you approach that conversation? Because I believe that the author, Reverend Schneider, is saying basically you need to be prepared to have those tough conversations with people.
How would you approach this, Leslie? How would you approach those two questions from your perspective, and to engage with other people? Do they have to be Christians for you to feel comfortable talking about resurrection? Or do you think that these Christians that as what you read and digested, where I concluded that it's important that all Christians become prepared, so at least they can, not sit there with like a deer in headlights when somebody broaches a subject or whatever. One of the things that I noticed, Leslie, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, as a pastor, I've met, I'm not kidding when I say thousands of people who are self-professed Christians who have no idea how to talk about the resurrection at all. You talked about proving it, showing proof, evidence of. How can Christians show evidence of something that has resurrected to life? So that's the question I have for you. What would you say about that, Leslie?
For me personally, I believe that sharing my own doubts and hesitations in my walk of faith, I wish I could say that I just jumped in and life is perfect and everything's easy and I never doubt where I am with God, but there's times where I don't feel as close to him as I should or want to. And I feel like when you're honest with people, it really opens up doors to their own heart about sharing things, because you're not putting yourself upon a pedestal. You're being authentic and human.
So are you implying that some Christians put on some sort of facade that they're wonderfully spiritual when they may be doubting significantly? Is that what you're saying?
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is it really an emphasis during Easter time to represent the resurrection message or the evidence of that message to a non-believing world? Or is it also important to have these open, in your words, open and honest kind of discourses with other Christians?
Mhm.
And why do you think that's important to have those conversations with Christians?
Personally, it's with other Christians. I feel that love puts everybody on the same page. So the way I might approach another Christian is going to be different than everyone else. And my personal way is to kind of have that common denominator of love that's, so prevalent in the Bible. So sometimes you have to experience love, and it's not something that you can just point to. So if someone's going through something, it's being and showing love while they're going through something. And I feel like that love transcends the love that Jesus had for us on the cross. And I feel like sometimes when you correlate those two, it just kind of just melds and people just kind of get it sometimes.
So am I to infer that you are implying there is an equating of love with resurrection, that resurrection is the primary display of God's love? And if so, why do you think people are confused or unaware of that, as they should be as Christians?
I do believe that the resurrection shows proof of love. Why Christians are unaware, I think sometimes people grow up with Easter Sunday, and unfortunately it becomes more about the hat you're wearing on Sunday or the gloves that match your dress. So
Yeah, that's always important to me. I make sure my gloves match my dress.
it wasn't instilled in me when I was younger that this is because Jesus died for you. This is why we are celebrating today the love, the sacrifice he had on the cross for us. Have you ever struggled to share the significance of Easter with someone who doesn't share your faith, or someone who does share your faith?
I have a difficult time talking to them about it because I know what I know. I know that I know that I know. But to tell somebody else that so that they will know that they know, I'm not quite sure about it.
The idea about resurrection is, first and foremost, you need to put it in your heads that resurrection takes something that seems to be a complete failure. Death, violence, whatever, okay, catastrophe, tragedy. And somehow, some way, with no other explanation other than something beyond you, redefined that complete, utter failure or death and turned it into a redefined life, a sustainable life. Now, if indeed you can grasp hold of that, most people can deal with that. They can wrap their heads around, because most people in some regard have been in circumstances where it doesn't make sense that they're still breathing, or they're still standing, or they're still working. And yet they are. There was a resurrection moment. Leslie talked earlier about there is a proof and evidence that we supply that resurrection is possible. You don't have to wait till the other side of heaven to be resurrected, as long as you grasp the idea that certain failure, already failure, certain tragedy or death or whatever else that could be happening within a second and doesn't. Christians believe in the resurrection supplied by the grace and the empowerment of God's Holy Spirit. if you kind of concentrate on that, that helps to understand what resurrection can mean. All right, Leslie.